And it wasn't
just
hard
listening
for
to
you to
nature.
didn't see the sun for these days?
Didn't see what?
The
Pardon?
sun, the sun.
Oh, there is sun. Yep.
Oh, you see the sun there?
Yep. We got blue skies and sunshine. Yeah, the sun goes all the way up there.
And
So, or down there, I guess I should
it didn't
say.
hurt the ice there?
Obviously, over time, yes, it does. With with the Earth heating up a little bit more, and with climate change going on, it does hurt the ice. But it's a natural cycle for the sun to melt the ice during the summer and then fill it back out in the winter. So that's a natural cycle that the Antarctica goes through. It's just more extreme on how much is melting and not, being rebuilt each winter. That's the difference. But Antarctica gets the sun in the summer for sure.
So it has sun. You can take suns.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You need some sunscreen for
Yes.
sure.
And what challenges did you have for traveling to Antarctica?
I think the biggest challenge for me was honestly like financially, just because I am a budget traveler, like making the funds and putting in the extra work and time to make sure that I could afford this trip. That was probably my biggest challenge. But other than that, I'm not too sure. Like everything, I mean, I was physically fit, capable to like do all of the activities. It was a wonderful adventure and such an amazing experience. I don't know if there were really like, I can't think of any off the top of my head other than a financial challenge. So I'll have to come back to you on that one.
So when you want to travel, just think about the financial first. And I think it's the important part. When you don't have any money, you can't go anywhere.
Yeah, it's finding a way to make the money or get the money to help keep you going.
Yes. And tell us about a little about the human beings' impact on the continent. Did you see anything about this?
So some of it you can
If
see,
positive
like
or if negative.
yeah. So some of the positives is that, there are regulations and organizations in place that control human interaction with the animals and the environment. So like I said before, you're not allowed to wear your own shoes onto the continent. That prevents any cross-contamination, invasive species. We have to wear specific boots, and those boots get scrubbed before we get off the ship and before we get back on the ship, and even when we're on the ship, we scrub them. So they're well taken care of there. All of our outer gear has to be vacuum cleaned to prevent any seeds or spurs. Again, cross-contamination, invasive species. We stay 5 meters away from any wildlife. That is a requirement by IATO to ensure that the wildlife are not impeded by our own presence, although with more and more traffic and travelers going to Antarctica and there's bigger tourism happening, there is obviously we are going to start seeing shifts within the next decade of how Antarctica and the wildlife necessarily have that impact and behavior of so many changes. Obviously with everything going on climate change wise, Antarctica is not refilling to its size that it was, I would say, like 50 years ago. It isn't as big as it used to be. It's losing ice shelves. It's losing, certain glaciers, and they're not coming back in the winter just because it's not cold enough anymore. So that is a bit of a struggle. Researchers are trying to find ways. A lot of tour companies are trying to find eco-friendly ways, ecotourism, and promote it to ensure that everything on all sides is taken care of. A plus side to these Antarctic expeditions and cruises is that as long as they're part of, IATO, the Antarctic organization for tour operators, they are working towards saving the planet, preserving the continent, using a lot of the funds to then help with research and making sure that like this place will still remain well after we've left the planet, or are no longer on the planet.
Yeah.
So
Okay, so about the researchers, did you see the researchers there? I mean that they are with you in this in your cruise, or they are also there for the summertime and during the summer in another places, and you can talk with them, can see them.
So for our specific expedition, we had a couple of researchers on the ship that gave talks, but they weren't specifically living and working in Antarctica. They were doing research about Antarctica or certain processes. We had a geologist, a PhD geologist student doing research, and genetics students. So we had researchers from different fields, but weren't necessarily doing research in Antarctica at that time. The most interaction I would say we got was with researchers was actually with their equipment. So in certain areas, you would see like cameras posted in the middle of penguin colonies to actually watch and take video footage of what's going on in the colony movement, things like that. The research bases are spread all across Antarctica, and none of them are really on the peninsula, because the peninsula is the area that loses and gains the most ice. So it's harder to have like very permanent structures. So a lot of the research bases are actually further south. So we didn't actually get to interact with any researchers. Certain expedition ships and tours do. You can do that. Glaciers and icebergs, talking about the geology, the water that we're seeing, frozen or melted in state of water. We talked a lot about that and just learning a little bit about the wildlife, some of like the mating, telling the difference between a male or a female penguin, because we saw quite a few different types of penguins. So with the Gentoo penguins, I know that the easiest way to tell the difference is usually during mating season, the male will mount the female from behind. So usually the female will have actually like wet mud print of the flippers on like her behind. That's the only way you'd know the difference between a male and a female. The female has the butt print.
And did you sterilize your food, your shoes? Oh, I don't know what it is.
Yep. So the boots that we had to use every day before. Yep. Twice a day.
You did it.
So
you did it, or they did for you?
No, they gave us the solution and we scrubbed it. So we went in a line, and there's a special scrubbing solution. So we use a brush and get into the solution, and we scrub our boots. We get off the ship, and then before we get back on the Zodiac to get onto the ship, we have to rub our feet in the salt water in the ocean, just to get off any like contamination, mud, or anything like that, to get it off into the water. And then when we get back on the Zodiac, we get back to the ship, and on the ship again, before we even enter the ship into the hallway, we have to scrub our boots again. So we would do that twice a day, because we'd get off in the morning and we'd get off in the afternoon.
And where did you buy this completely tour? I mean, any tour operator that is know it to tell us about the name?
Yeah, so I did mine through Ocean Wide Expeditions. It is a European brand or company. Most Antarctic tour companies are European. So you will have to go through, more than likely, you will have to go through a European company. And everything's online. Unless you are in Ushuaia or go in a specific area where there are tour companies that offer Antarctic cruises, you will have to look online and connect with the tour agencies that way. It took a lot of research. I think I did research for a couple months to figure out what I wanted to do, how long I wanted to go,
which one is the best,
what activities. Exactly. Yep. It took a little bit to find that out, because each one is very different.
And I think different prices. Yes.
Oh yeah, definitely. Huge range of prices depending on you want to go budget. Again, the cruise versus the expedition, and then expedition versus luxury. They are all different prices. So that's something that you want to look into as well. Like knowing your budget, it's going to have to be a bigger budget for Antarctica for obvious reasons. And then
So,
you have to figure out where within the budget you want to fall.
I mean, that's the budget, difference between budget and the luxurious is in your rooms in the cruise ship and your food, something like that. Yes.
Yep, it'll include the length of time that you spend down exploring. It'll include the type of ship that you use, your stateroom, the food that you want, the type of care that you want, the size of the ship. A lot goes into everything. So it does take a lot of research.
Okay, and is there anything that you want to share with someone who wants to travel to Antarctica? Someone like
definitely
me.
Try it.
Someone like me.
If it's something you really want to do, like look into ways to, if money is an issue, but you really want to do this, then, start saving now. Look into it for a few years out and start saving for it. I would say, like, take into consideration the fact that, it is a very unique destination. It's a rare destination that travelers are just starting to really get to go to and explore more of. So taking into account, I want to go to this rare place. I want to see it before I can't. But then also, think about that environmental impact. If that's something that's big for you and you're okay with just seeing photos of Antarctica, but you don't need to go because that environmental impact that it has. I mean, it takes a lot to get down there, even just from your home to Ushuaia and then on the expedition ship as well. So take a lot of things into account for sure. But honestly, I'm so glad that I went. I will forever cherish that experience, and I'm very honored that I went and I pushed myself to go. I don't think I'll go again.
Again?
Because no, I don't think I'll go again.
I don't think.
If I go again, I'd go for research purposes. I wouldn't go for tourism. Yep.
So you can everyone can go there for research also?
Not everyone. You have to have specific programs it's kind of a connection thing. But I would, I know a few professors from my university that are always looking for, students or field students to kind of help, field assistants to help out.
Okay. And you as a traveler, as someone who travels a lot, what is your next destination after this pandemic also?
Well, I think if everything goes smoothly, I'd really like to either go out to Australia or New Zealand. Once those borders open back up, I'd like to head back out there again and actually have go for a working holiday visa. But honestly, I'm officially full-time traveling. So once everything sort of kind of figures itself out and slowly opens up safely, I'm just going to kind of keep going. I don't really have plans of going back home right now.
So always you are in travel. How you earn money? It's a big question for me as someone who travels a lot.
So I have
classes that you have.
So I'm an online private teacher. So that is one source of income. And then I also had a job here in Indonesia. And now that I've moved to Bali, I lived in Jakarta for 6 months and then I moved out to Bali. And I'm in the process of securing a job right now so that I can still stay in Indonesia. So I will have two sources of income and then also working on my blog and building up my own business here. So potentially 3 sources of income to kind of keep me going here. Because, I really like having a flexible schedule and moving around. So being an online teacher or working online remotely is super helpful. I don't have anything to really ground me or keep me tied to one location, which is great.
You can everywhere have your job.
Yeah, that's the best part.
Just you have internet connection and you can earn money.
Exactly.
Okay, and one another question that always I asked in my interview: what's your idea as a solo traveler and also female solo traveler about some countries that are unpopular? I mean, like Iran. I mean, like Pakistan. Something like this country. Do you
So
have it in your bucket list or no?
oh, I do. I have the entire world in my bucket list. To me, there are no restrictions other than yourself. There are ways to work around certain places. Obviously, in certain areas, you need to, one, be more aware, two, be more culturally respectful, which, I mean, you should be in general as a traveler, but certain areas that you need to be even more aware of how you dress and just to continue being respectful of the culture. Like here, when I was living in, Jakarta, I cannot go around in shorts and a tank top. That is not allowed. I'd have to be in long pants and a t-shirt. Yep. Because it's a Muslim dominated country. It's the highest population of Muslims in the world. So there is a lot of cultural and social norms and respect set to be, I'm not a traveler. I live here. So I have to, it's a sign of respecting of the culture. Absolutely. When it comes to places like that most people are like, no, it's not safe to travel. I don't actually think that and I tend not to participate in conversations about where it's safe for solo female travelers. There are places that are easier to travel as a solo female traveler, and there are places that are a little bit harder. But safe and unsafe are very subjective. I've been places that are very safe and had very questionable interactions with people. It's not the place, it's usually the people and their decisions. So keeping your wits about you, for me, nothing's off the map, nothing's off the list. I would love to see it. I'd love to explore it, try the food, meet the people, explore. It's all about connection and gaining more understanding and learning. So for me, it isn't, safety is a thing. I understand that and definitely contribute to the conversation, but I wouldn't rule out any destination as unsafe and unfit to travel.
Yes, most of the people think that these countries are not safe, actually, special for the women. So thank you so much, Alexis. I will learn a lot about your experience on Antarctica, and I hope that someday when I go there because I love it.
I hope you do too.
Yes. So thanks for taking your time and being with us.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Thank you. And thanks everyone for watching us. I hope you found this show useful. And also, if you are a traveler and you have such this experience like Alexis, contact us because it can be our next guest. See you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, Alexis.
Bye. Bye. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.